The Sons of Dio in the second half of Stone Ocean are an interesting concept executed with shaky results, with a lot of their fights feeling like filler mid-bosses that expand on nothing outside of the fights themselves, except for maybe Versace, who he himself didn't actually matter, just the results of his fight mattered. Though if I had to pick a favorite of the three, mine would have to be the paranoid mess of a human being with evolution on the mind, Rikiel, and his stand, Sky High. Rikiel is the second son of Dio that we meet in Stone Ocean and the third that we meet overall, and in his introduction he appears to be nothing more than a meek, cowardice young man, but over the course of his arc he evolves into someone who could double as a protagonist of his own series if he wanted to. Though before we get too into that, we should discuss the meaning behind his name. Rikiel's name, like most characters in Part 6, comes directly from a fashion label, specifically Sonia Rikiel, which was founded in 1968 by Sonia Rikiel and her husband. Now Sonia was a fashion designer who gained a major surge in popularity and was awarded the title Queen of Knits, all thanks to her revolutionary sweater design that would go on to be called the Poor Boy Sweater. A sweater that she designed specifically so she'd have something comfortable to wear during her pregnancy. But this design caught the attention of the Women's Wear magazine along with Elle magazine, and Sonia became a household name. And she would use this newly growing fame to boost her own brand to the top of the world of fashion, turning a humble shop into a world-known brand. And Rikiel reflects Sonia in his character design and motivation, starting first with his design. It seems that his cow print uniform is based on one of Sonia Rikiel's popular women's wear sets from the 1980s, with Araki replacing the black sleeves on the uniform with just a sleeveless design and adding a neck brace to the overall outfit to relate to his more terrified and sickly demeanor prior to meeting Pucci, as before that event he was just a bumbling weakling who was overstressed and overwhelmed by just about everything in life, only to change and become someone who strives for greatness in everything that they do, and was willing to overcome any hardship before them. And just like with Sonia, Rikiel's lifestyle changed because someone discovered a hidden talent within him. Though this hidden talent wasn't knitting, it was his stand, Sky High. Sky High is a tool stand which takes the form of a toy-esque wristwatch which seems to be designed after a chimera-like creature comprised of a frog and a pterodactyl. And without context, that's actually a pretty weird mix, but shockingly there seems to be a pretty reasonable reason for why the design is this way. But we will discuss that when we discuss the things that Sky High can control, this being the Jurassic period insect creature only known as a skyfish or the rods. Now these skyfish or rods are actual creatures in the world of JoJo and aren't part of Rikiel's stand, and they're based on a real-life phenomenon that was getting pretty popular around the time that Part 6 was being written. This being that cameras at the time seemed to be picking up these tiny little rod-like creatures that were invisible to the naked eye. These would later turn out to be nothing more than optical illusions based on bugs and shutter speed, but in JoJo, they're actual living creatures and wouldn't be the strangest new creature to be discovered in the universe. Though since these were newly discovered creatures at the time, there was nothing known about them and Araki had to create their entire biology, giving them ancestors and history, along with giving them interesting abilities. You see, skyfish don't survive on eating other things, they actually survive by absorbing the heat from other creatures. Originally only hunting aquatic targets, but evolving to move towards the sky for larger game, thus giving us an explanation to why Sky High's design is the way it is. It's taking into account both of the skyfish's preferred prey. Also, the reason why scientists haven't discovered this creature up until now is because it's a transparent being that moves in a weird way that makes it basically invisible to the human eye, unless it stands still. Also, upon death, the creature dissolves instantly, leaving behind no body to examine. Though by themselves, the rods are nearly harmless, as the heat they absorb normally goes unnoticed by a target and is quickly replaced, but if the rods heavily focus on one area, they can heavily decrease the heat of that location, leaving it susceptible to harmful diseases such as rotting, contorting muscles in strange ways, or even being able to damage the vision receptor on the brain, leaving a person's vision lagging behind by a few seconds. And it's this heat-sapping ability that makes Rikiel's stand so powerful, as you can creatively focus his rods into attacking certain areas with deadly precision, using the disease that they cause to his advantage, like contorting the muscles of a person so he could puppet them, or targeting the brain and disabling part of his own pain receptor to prevent him from falling unconscious, so his ability would never deactivate unless he died or ran out of stamina. He can also use this ability to target the brain to completely sever the first vertebrae of a target, aka severing the brainstem and leaving them in an unresponsive state as their body slowly shuts down and dies with nothing that they can do about it. Sky High only is as powerful as the user is creative, so I imagine if we saw more of Rikiel throughout the entire part, we'd see him use them in more and more creative ways, maybe maneuvering using his skyfish or finding better better locations to target, but as it stands right now, it's only speculation how broken Sky High could have gotten. In fact, the only weakness of the stand is that it required Rikiel to stay focused and determined on his mission, because if his low self-esteem started to cause him to doubt himself, he would lose control over the rods, as they only followed his orders because they viewed him as an alpha or a leader of sorts. And of course, the obvious weakness of the stand is that there needs to be Skyfish nearby for him to use the stand at all. Without it, it's basically useless. Now, Sky High gets its name from the song Sky High by the band Jigsaw. It was a song created for the movie The Man from Hong Kong, a huge stunt-focused action movie that was kind of successful, but not really a major hit, though the song itself seemed to capture mainstream attention in Japan, holding a top spot on Japanese billboards 2 years past the movie's release. And it stayed there for about 3 years. Jigsaw, the band, never expected the song to take off, and to this day, it's their most successful song, which is a success story very similar to Sonia Rikiel, and is likely the reason why Rikiel himself relates to the song in a sense. Also the fact that if you take a closer look at the song Sky High, it's all about flying too close to the sun and preparing for a hard crash to Earth, with lyrics that paint a picture of someone striving to do their best in the face of failure and hoping that they will come out on top in the end. And this is echoed in Rikiel's own reckless pursuit of evolution, as after learning the true nature of his power, Rikiel begins to view humanity very differently than his other two brothers. Basically, unlike them, Rikiel accepts that his life's hardships were based on his own lack of determination and strength. His meek and weak nature and easily broken confidence made him an easy target for the rods that prey on him, striking him during his moments of panic and inflicting him with diseases that didn't actually exist. He feared the unknown that haunted him and no one else, leaving him to a crippling life of constant fear, showing us another example of a stand user with a weak will becoming a victim of their own ability. Very similar to Holly, but crippling in a different way. Though once he became alerted to the existence of the creatures that had been causing him pain, and learning that he had the ability to control them, gave him the same feeling of someone discovering that a hardship in their life was actually just an undiagnosed illness. Rikiel became more confident, as he was now enlightened to the fact that he didn't just have to sit there and take his illnesses lying down anymore. He could fight back, and with this confidence came his father's own determination, and with that determination came Rikiel's own mastery of his stand and his ability to fight without fear. This sudden and amazing change in his life is what led Rikiel to love humanity and evolution as a whole, becoming closely attached to the human achievement known as the Apollo 11 moon landing, and using it as motivation to evolve during his fight with Jolene, by either willingly setting himself on fire to understand where to strike her, or using his rods to rot a part of his own brain so he couldn't be knocked out, assuring that he'd fight to his last breath. Rikiel was determined to be the human embodiment of Apollo 11, and this iron will and determination is what led Rikiel to almost defeating Jolene, losing only because fate decided against it, which allowed Rikiel to come to one last important realization about humanity. Humans, much like the rods that he controlled, are driven to the person with the largest determination. Fate connects everyone, and it's only the strongest who are destined to succeed. So, in losing to fate, he realized that he didn't lose because he wasn't good enough, just because he wasn't destined to succeed in the first place, meaning that he truly fought at his best and filled the void in his heart even in defeat. Likely the same feeling that an amateur baseball player might feel when nearly striking out a professional major league batter, or just being a man among gods and holding your own. One could say that he flew sky high, gave it all he had to give, but why did it have to stop? Now, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more videos like it in the future, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/MegaNotTheBadGuy. And if you want to soar sky high and touch the sky, then first you should start by buying a copy of Shimonetta, A Boring World Where the Concentrated Jokes Doesn't Exist, at buyshimonetta.com.